Alright guys, welcome back again. So, we're finally going to do my Resident Evil character tier list. I've got some music playing in another window. I'm going to turn it down a bit though, because it's a bit loud. But anyway, there are a lot of fucking characters that are going to be in this tier list. I've tried to go with as many of the main characters as I could, and some of the characters that appear in the spin-offs and the Resident Evil movies. I've tried to pick as many, important characters as I could find. So there's 102 that I have to work with here. So this is going to be a bit lengthy. I'm going to try to get through it as quick as I can. I've decided to go with the versions of the characters that I like the most in terms of, the character design. So that's why some of the pictures are going to look a bit different. So I didn't really go with their most recent appearance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, having that been said, there will be spoilers. So if you've not played all the games, or if you're not really, caught up with the series or whatever, then you might want to skip this one. Because, I'm going to be talking... I'm going to try not to talk in depth about every single character on here, because some of them I just don't really have a lot to say anyway. But I think I've fucking talked enough, so let's get into it. So first we've got Ada Wong from Resident Evil 4. That's my favorite design of hers. Ada's an easy S tier character in my opinion. I really like that you never really know exactly who she's working for. But I also like that you can tell that Ada does actually give a shit about the people around her and the world as a whole. So yeah, I really like Ada. She is S tier. Now we have Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil Village. This character, in my opinion, is B tier material. She's interesting out of the 4 wards of Resident Evil Village, but that character is just overrated in my opinion. I don't really have much else to say about her. So up next we have the Ashford twins, Alfred and Alexia. I'm going to put them both in B tier as well. They're a bit important to the Umbrella War, but beyond that, they're just kind of quirky villains. I do really appreciate the Ashford twins, because in my opinion, Code Veronica is one of my favorite games in the series. But I don't feel like they're good enough to be an A or S, though, so they're going to be here in B. Alyssa from Resident Evil Outbreak. Alyssa Ashcroft is a reporter. Excuse me, I had a hiccup for a second. So, I've actually been playing Resident Evil Outbreak quite a bit lately. And, I may make another tier list of just the Resident Evil Outbreak characters and list them appropriately. But I think in terms of this tier list, I'm going to put all of them here in B tier. Because, they're all decent characters, and it's cool that... by that, I mean, I would kind of like to see them again. But if not, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I believe I'm going to put all of the Resident Evil Outbreak survivors here in B tier, because they're all kind of the same. I may put one of them in A tier, but we will get to that. Now we have Angela Miller from the film Resident Evil Degeneration. This character is a bit like Leon's partner in Resident Evil 6, Helena Harper. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Angela. She's also got the same voice actress as Helena as well. I don't think she's good enough for B tier, honestly. I'm going to put her in C. Simply because there's just nothing else to her. Once her story arc is finished in that movie, I really don't care if we ever see her again, to be honest. Annette Birkin. I'm going to put her in B. I think that's an appropriate spot. Up next we've got Ark from Resident Evil Survivor. As you guys probably know by now, I'm not a fan of Resident Evil Survivor. I think it's terrible. I think it's probably the worst game in the franchise, and I have played literally all of them. I mean, there's like a few that I haven't played, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Resident Evil Survivor. I think the story sucks, the characters suck, everything about that game is awful, including this fucking character, Art Thompson, so he's going in D tier. Ashley Graham. So if this were the original Ashley and we didn't have the remake of Resident Evil 4, I would probably put her in C tier. But, to be honest, I really like Ashley a lot. The Resident Evil 4 remake really redeemed her, in my opinion, so she's going in A tier. Barry Burton. Barry's an easy S tier. Barry's one of the best supporting characters in Resident Evil 1. He's fucking awesome. He's always got a funny one-liner and some stupid fucking dad joke. I love Barry. And then in Resident Evil Revelations 2, when you get to play as him again, and he's a bit of an older man. God, I could go on. I love Barry. Billy Cohen from Resident Evil 0. Excuse me. Billy's kind of weird. Like, you know, I'm going to put him in A because I kind of would like to see Billy again. Brad Vickers, C tier. I'm not putting him any lower or any higher. He's a coward. He abandoned you in Resident Evil 1, and he gets his fucking punishment for it in Resident Evil 3. Yep, Brad C tier material. Up next we have Chief Irons. I picked his appearance from the Resident Evil 2 remake. C tier. I would put him higher, but I mean, he dies in Resident Evil 2, so there's not really anything else to learn about him. He's just the corrupt police chief, and that's pretty much it. Whatever. Up next we have Bruce McGivern from Resident Evil Dead Aim. This is one of the spin-off games. I have played it. I really enjoy it. In my opinion, Bruce, I want to put him in B tier. I really do. But there just really isn't a whole lot to him as well. He's basically just a dollar store version of Leon. So, yeah, I'm going to put him in C tier. You know what? I'm going to put him in B. Simply because I would actually like to see Bruce come back again. Up next we have Sasha Kozachenko, aka Buddy, from Resident Evil Damnation. The CGI, one of the CGI films. I really like this guy a lot. I think he's fucking cool. I like his character arc in that film. Yeah, I would really like to see him appear, or at least be mentioned in one of the games. I think that would be really cool to see him again. Up next we have Carla Radamus from Resident Evil 6. She's very forgettable, to be completely honest with you. When I was gathering the images for this tier list, I completely forgot that she even existed, which shows you how forgettable that she is, so I'm going to put her in C tier. Up next, we have Carlos Oliveira, fucking S tier. What they did with him in the Resident Evil 3 remake is nothing short of perfection. They took a sort of lame character and turned him into a fucking badass. I love Carlos, and I really want to see him again. Up next, we have Chris Redfield. I went with his design from Code Veronica, because that's my favorite. Chris is an easy S tier. Fucking love Chris Redfield. He's one of my favorite characters in the series. Up next, we have Cindy Lennox from Resident Evil Outbreak. I'm going to put her in B tier with Alyssa, just like I said. Now we have Clancy Javis from Resident Evil 7. Now, in my opinion, this may be a bit controversial, but when you play Resident Evil 7 with the, the Sewer Gators videotape and all the DLC with it, I think Clancy's a bit more interesting than Ethan in some areas. I think Ethan does get better with the release of Resident Evil Village, But if I were to just rank them based on only their Resident Evil 7 counterparts, I would honestly rank Quincy a higher character than Ethan. But Quincy is dead, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to put him in B. Up next, we have Quaivar O'Brien from Resident Evil Revelations. So this guy's the director of the BSAA, but he like sells them out, and there's some kind of conspiracy horse shit. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. The story for Resident Evil Revelations still doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But I remember that this guy sold out the BSAA, and he had to fucking resign. He's a weirdo. He's a loser. C tier. He's really fucking forgettable. The only time he's ever mentioned again is in Resident Evil 7. He wrote a book, and that's it. So yeah, C tier. Up next, we have Curtis Miller from Resident Evil Degeneration. He's going to be joining his sister Angela here in C tier. Don't have anything else to say about him. Now we have Donna Beneviento from Resident Evil Village. I'm going to put her up here in B with... You know what? No, I'm going to put her in C. Because once you go through the dollhouse area, admittedly it is really cool on your first playthrough of Resident Evil Village. But after you've played through the game once, that part kind of loses its feel. And she's just not that interesting to me. You know what? I think I will put her in B tier because the lore surrounding her is kind of cool if you look into it, but she's definitely better than these characters, so yeah, whatever. Up next we have this guy Dylan. I think his name is Dylan Blake from Resident Evil Death Island. Shit villain, C tier. Up next, Ethan Winters. So, like I said, if I was going to rank these two based on only their Resident Evil 7 counterparts, Ethan would be below Quincy, but since he does get better in Resident Evil Village, I think Ethan Winters is an A-tier character for sure. I'm honestly debating putting him in S tier, to be completely honest, but for now I'm going to leave Ethan in A tier. Evelyn from Resident Evil 7, in my opinion, she's a very cliche fucking loser character. C tier. B tier. David King from Resident Evil Outbreak, he's going to go in B tier as well. Derek Simmons from Resident Evil 6, this guy is a fucking loser, and he's going to go right here with Carla from Resident Evil 6, and they're going to join each other on C tier. Gabriel Chavez from Resident Evil Revelations 2. B tier. Gwen Arias from Resident Evil Vendetta. This guy is stupid as fuck. So basically, he's this terrorist, this bioterrorist. A government dropped a bomb on his wedding. Somehow the bomb did not kill him. And he was like, fuck the world. I'm gonna watch the world burn, and just because Rebecca Chambers looks similar to my dead wife, I'm going to kidnap her and try to make her marry me. Yeah, this guy's a fucking lunatic. Also, he's supposed to be some random businessman, but still he's able to fight fucking toe-to-toe with Chris fucking Redfield. What? Fuck this guy. C tier. Hunk. A tier. Don't get me wrong, Hunk is a badass, but from where we don't know a lot about him, I think that in a way it prevents him from going to S tier. But yeah, I think he's A tier material. Enrico Marini, B tier. This guy Jason from Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, fucking lame, C tier. Javier Hidalgo from Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles, another forgettable villain, C tier. Yevgeny Rebek from Resident Evil Revelations 2, B tier. Excella from Resident Evil 5, B tier. Seems to be there's going to be a lot of characters here in B tier, to be honest. Frederick Downing. I kind of forgot this guy's name. I forgot his name because he is fucking forgettable, and he's also in Resident Evil Degeneration, so he's gonna join them in C tier. Keith Wimley from Resident Evil Revelations 1. He's either gonna go in B or C. A lot of these characters are pretty mid, which is why B and C tier seems to be filling up so quickly. I think I'll even it out, and I guess I'll put this guy in C tier. Manuela Hidalgo, C tier. She only serves a purpose in Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles. Look, I'm not going to go into too specifics about these characters because this video is already going to be pretty lengthy anyway. Lucas Baker, I really like Lucas. I think he's a really interesting villain. But he's not good enough for A tier. Marguerite, B tier as well. Mia Winters. Mia, B tier. She's not as interesting as Ethan in my opinion. What the fuck is her name? Mother Miranda from Resident Evil Village. To be honest, guys, I've only played Resident Evil Village like twice. I only played through that game 2 times. So there's not really a whole lot that I do remember about it. But from memory, this woman actually taught Spencer. She instructed him on viruses and stuff, and she was the inspiration for what he would turn into, the Umbrella Corporation. She's interesting enough. B tier. Moira Burton. I would actually like to see Moira again. I thought she was a really solid character in Revelations 2. She starts off to be kind of this, you know, angsty fucking character. But once you play the DLC, I think she is a much better character towards the end of the game. Natalia Corda, forgettable, B tier. Fong Ling from Resident Evil Dead Aim. She's basically discount Ada Wong, but I think it would be cool to see her again, so I'm going to put her in B with Bruce. Jack Baker, fucking A tier. Nikolai Zinoviev from Resident Evil 3, fucking interesting character. I would really like to see him again too, so I'm going to put him in A. Parker Luciani from Resident Evil Revelations 1. He was interesting, but I don't think he's cool enough to go to A tier. I'm going to put him in B. Chief Torres Mendez from Resident Evil 4. I mean, he doesn't really do a lot. I will say the Resident Evil 4 remake did add a bit more to his character, so because of that, I think I'll put him in B. Getting to the point that I have to scroll down now. Mikhail Victor from Resident Evil 3. B. Rosemary Winters. Alright, so I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here about Rosemary Winters. You'll have to forgive me, I don't know why my nose is so runny today. But, Rosemary Winters, in my opinion, is one of the most overrated Resident Evil characters. To be completely fair though, I have not played the Shadows of Rose DLC for Resident Evil Village, simply because I'm not at all interested in it. I will play it eventually, but I've just not played it yet. I have no real desire to play it, because I don't really care about her story. Look, I don't want to sound like a dick or anything, but I don't know, she just seems to be really dumb. Like a character that was just thrown in at the last second for a post-credits scene. That's all I feel like with Rosemary Winters. Not to mention her character design is really fucking lame. She just wears her dad's clothes, who has been dead for like 20 fucking years at this point. Like, what? Why? Just to show that, oh, she's the daughter of Ethan. We know that. You don't have to put her in his fucking clothes to tell us that. Fuck. And also, I get tired of people being like, oh, Rosemary Winters is the greatest Resident Evil character. Why? She appeared for maybe 5 minutes in a post-credit scene. Really? Fucking B tier. Anyway, moving on. Helena Harper from Resident Evil 6. So, Helena's story is that, I'm just going to talk about it briefly. So, she worked with the DSO, the same government branch that Leon works under. So, she's an agent like Leon is. But this guy from Resident Evil 6, Derek Simmons, he blackmailed Helena, kidnapped her and her sister, and basically gave her an ultimatum. Help him breach the president's security so that he could assassinate the president of the United States, or he would kill Helena's sister. Now, I'm not really going to go into specifics on, the morality of that, because, I mean, you're assisting a guy assassinating somebody else. I think you should definitely face some repercussions for that, which is one thing I don't really like about the ending of Resident Evil 6. I don't like that Helena just kind of got off scot-free, but it is what it is. I think Helena's a pretty awesome character, to be honest, and I would really like to see her return again, so I'm going to put her in A. And if anybody doesn't like that, kiss my ass. Up next, we have Jack Krauser. Krauser, he's interesting, but I also feel like he was kind of thrown into Resident Evil 4. But I will say that the other games that have released since Resident Evil 4, like the Dark Side Chronicles and of course the Resident Evil 4 remake, have added a bit more to Krauser and made him more likable and more important. So I think he's cool, so I'm going to put him in A tier. Up next, we have this guy named JD from Resident Evil Damnation. He's a fucking loser, but he's not as annoying as these characters, so I'm going to put him in B. Senator Ron Davis from Resident Evil Degeneration, fucking forgettable, just like the rest of those characters, so he's going in C. What is this guy's fucking name? Murphy Seeker from Resident Evil 3. C. Literally the only reason that this guy exists is so that Nikolai can kill him. That's pretty much it. Unless, of course, you get the alternate cutscene where Carlos kills him, but whatever. Jim Chapman from Resident Evil Outbreak. I'm going to put him in B tier with the other Outbreak characters. Although Jim actually is one of my more favorited characters to play as an Outbreak. I think his skills are really cool. Up next, we have Sherry Birkin. Sherry's going in A tier. I think it's really cool how they brought her back in Resident Evil 6. And I would like to see her in another game. Alex Wesker, I went with her design from Resident Evil Resistance because I think it's really cool. But B tier, I think, is appropriate for Alex. Up next, we've got Steve Burnside. I went with his Dark Side Chronicles appearance. Now, Steve, if we were basing it on his original counterpart, I would probably put him in B or C. But the Dark Side Chronicles, I really have a soft spot for that game because I'd played it a lot when I was younger. And I think they really made Steve a better character in that game overall. I mean, obviously he's dead. He's not going to come back at all. But I think he's alright. I'm going to put him in B. George Hamilton, B as well. Same with Mark from Resident Evil Outbreak. George, out of all the characters in Resident Evil Outbreak, though, he is probably my least favorite to play as. I do not like him. But I think he's interesting enough to be in B tier. Osmond Sadler. This may be a hot take, but I think Sadler's one of the more interesting villains. Some people think he's cliche, but I really like Sadler a lot, so I'm going to put him in A tier. I also really like his design because I'm also a pretty big fan of Star Wars, and he reminds me a lot of Emperor Palpatine with that hood and the fucked up face. Up next we have Carl Heisenberg. Out of all the 4 wards in Resident Evil Village, this guy was my favorite, but he, again, is not that important, so I'm going to put him in B tier. Ingrid Hunnigan. Hunnigan is a bit of an unsung hero in the games. I mean, she's literally Leon's handler with him through thick and thin. I really want to put her in A tier. I think I will. A tier. Jill fucking Valentine, S tier. No questions asked. Morpheus Duvall from Resident Evil Dead Aim. So this guy is the villain for Resident Evil Dead Aim. And what's interesting about Morpheus is that he is actually, I believe, one of the only, or maybe the only, transgender Resident Evil characters. However, he's a bit forgettable, so I'm going to put him in B tier. Up next we have, I believe, her name is Shinmei, something like that, from Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. Forgettable, C tier. Joe Baker is going to join his brother Jack up here in A tier. This dude is a badass. He just punches the living fuck out of everything. Very cool. Up next we have this guy Morgan Lansdale from Resident Evil Revelations. He's just about as fucking forgettable as Quav O'Brien, so I'm going to put him in C tier. Fuck that guy. Louis Serra, fucking S tier. What they did with him in the Resident Evil 4 remake is fucking amazing. They really took a character that was like bare bones and made him fucking awesome. Love that shit. Luis S tier for sure. Sergei Vladimir from Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles. This guy is also pretty forgettable. I'm going to put him in C. So he was basically like the Umbrella military commander, sort of. And he also worked with the Umbrella Russian facility. And he also is the guy who the Tyrants, the mass production models, the T-103s, like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2, he is the guy that they are pretty much modeled after. But he's really forgettable. And if you haven't played Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, you won't even know that he exists anyway, because he's that unimportant. He's never really mentioned ever again. Now we've got this chick from Resident Evil Vendetta. Her name, I believe, is Maria. She works with this guy, Gwen Arias. She's so forgettable that I even forgot she existed, so she's going in C tier. Neil Fisher from Revelations 2. B tier. Man, this tier list is getting pretty big. Rodrigo Juan Raval from Resident Evil Code Veronica, B tier as well. Irving, also B tier. Josh Stone, A tier. Jake Mueller. Alright. Jake, when Resident Evil 6 first came out, a lot of people didn't really like Jake because they were like, what the fuck? Wesker would never have a son. Why is this guy in the game? But over the years, I've come to really like Jake. He does seem a bit cringe at times in the story, but I like him enough that I would like to see him come back, and I'm honestly surprised he hasn't. Up next, we have James Marcus, fucking B tier, fuck this guy. Jack Norman, I think is this guy's name. He's from Resident Evil Revelations 1. He's also forgettable, C tier. Yep, that's Kevin. Kevin Ryman from Resident Evil Outbreak. This is the one Resident Evil Outbreak survivor that I genuinely want to see again, so I'm going to put him in A tier. So what makes Kevin so cool is that he is a police officer for the RPD. So he's also my favorite character to play as in Resident Evil Outbreak. And what's cool is that you can find some special items in the games that are, specific to each character. And you find out that Kevin has actually tried to join the STARS team like 2 times but failed. He often gets drunk on the job. He's sort of this happy-go-lucky kind of character. I really like Kevin a lot. And also, it's implied that he is also friends with, or at least was, well, he's friends with Leon, and he was also going to be Leon's partner in RPD. So that's really cool. I like Kevin. Jessica Sherwatt from Revelations 1. She is also a very fucking forgettable character, so she's going in C. Richard Eichen, B. Marvin Brennan, B. There are a lot of fucking characters in B tier, by the way. Pedro, what the fuck is his last name? I don't know. B tier. Claire fucking Redfield, S tier. I went with her sniper costume from Revelations 2 because I really like it a lot. And it puts me in mind a lot of the character Julie Kidman from The Evil Within, which is another horror game that I promise I will play through on my channel at some point. Up next we have Salvatore Moreau, the last of the four wards. This guy's a fucking loser, but at least he's got something going on for him, unlike most of these boring ass characters. So I'm gonna put him in B. Sheva Alomar, A tier. I would love to see Sheva make another return. I love Sheva. I think she's a fucking awesome character. Piers Niven. Alright, so Resident Evil 6, I'm going to put him in B for now, just so I can talk for a minute. Resident Evil 6 introduced 3 new characters. Piers Niven, Helena Harper, and Jake Mueller. So you got Piers here, Helena, and Jake. Out of all 3 of them, Piers is my fucking favorite. This guy is just a badass. So he's Chris's partner through the game. And, I just love Piers. I think he's an amazing character. And actually, he was in a manga before he was actually in Resident Evil 6. I've not read it, but it came out like a week before Resident Evil 6 released or something to that effect. Unfortunately, Piers did die in Resident Evil 6. He sacrificed his life to save Chris. That seems to be a recurring theme with a lot of Capcom or Resident Evil characters. They will introduce these really cool characters and then just fucking kill them off in the game that they're introduced in. So unfortunately, Piers is dead, but he went out like a hero. And hell, I could talk about Piers a lot, but I need to move on, so I'm gonna put him in S tier. Fucking love Piers. Ramon Salazar, B tier. Raymond Vester. This guy, out of all the other Revelations 1 characters, like, you know, Clive O'Brien and these people, and Jessica, I don't know what it is about Raymond, but I really like him. I think he is just as cool as Parker, and I would actually like to see Raymond come back. Part of it's that ridiculous hairstyle that he's got going on. I think it's really funny. But, I like him because he's sort of like Ada, and he also kind of puts me in mind of Revolver Ocelot from Metal Gear Solid, because you just never really know who the fuck he's actually working for. He's like this triple agent. Pretty cool character. Up next we have Quint Ketchum from Revelations 1. This guy's a fucking loser-ass piece of shit, bozo, scumbag, C tier, fuck that guy. He might be one of my most hated Resident Evil characters, by the way. Svetlana Belikova from Resident Evil Damnation. I mean, she's just the president. There's nothing else really to add about her. Yeah, C tier. Leon Kennedy. There should be no questions asked. S tier. Leon is my favorite character in the entire fucking franchise. Oswell Spencer, the fucking father of Umbrella, the one who started it all. Very interesting character for his lore, but beyond that, I'm not putting him any higher. Rebecca Chambers. Okay, I'm going to put her right here for now so I can talk for a second. If you were to ask me a few years ago to do a tier list of the Resident Evil characters, I would probably put Rebecca in B tier. But I don't know. For whatever reason, my opinion has completely changed on Rebecca over the years. Maybe it's because I've also read some of the Resident Evil novels, and, you know, upon replaying Resident Evil 0, I really like Rebecca a lot. What the fuck did I just do? Whoops. I'm going to put her up here in S tier. Rebecca is a very fucking cool character. This guy, Tyrell, he gets killed in Resident Evil 3. He's just another fucking casualty. B tier. Albert Wesker, I went with his Resident Evil Code Veronica design. Wesker is one of my absolute favorite characters in the entire fucking franchise. S tier for sure. Wesker is just so fucking cool, man. Like, from his return from death to becoming a superhuman, just everything about this motherfucker is badass. I love Wesker. Wesker is obviously the best villain in the franchise as well. None of the other villains even fucking compare to Wesker, at least in my opinion. Up next, we've got William Birkin. I did not go with his Resident Evil 2 remake design, because I kind of don't like it, to be honest. I like this look of him a bit better. I think William's good. I'm going to put him in A tier. William, though, I think is a bit underrated. I don't see a lot of people talk about how actually important he is to the series. Because think about it, this is the dude that created the fucking Hunter bioweapons, one of the most successful bioweapons. He created the fucking G-Virus. He, you know, he's a fucking piece of scum virologist. He is pretty much responsible for the outbreak in Raccoon City as well. But I just don't really see a lot of people talk about William that much, and it's really unfortunate, because he is just as important to the story as Wesker, at least in my opinion. In some areas he is. I mean, obviously he doesn't have as much of an impact as Wesker does throughout the rest of the games, but yeah, I really like William a lot, so I'm going to put him in A tier. So we've only got 2 characters left here. Yoko Suzuki from Resident Evil Outbreak. She is my second least favorite character to play as, but she's cool. I'll put her in B. And last but not least, we have Zoe Baker from Resident Evil 7. Honestly, I really like Zoe, and I hope we see her again. I think that is probably going to be the final tier list. I don't really think I want to edit anything. I don't really have any characters I want to put elsewhere. If anything, there might be a few characters up here that I would put down here with Art Thompson. You know what? Fuck you, Quint. D tier. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. I believe that'll be the final little bit here. Yeah, that'll do it. I think the next tier list that I may do the Resident Evil creatures and boss fights. I think that would be a fun tier list to make. But yeah, this is my finished Resident Evil character tier list. Now, obviously, this isn't every single character, because I'm not going to fucking add every goddamn NPC in the game. But these, in my opinion, are the most core, sort of important characters to the story and like the movies and shit. But yeah, there we go. I hope you guys enjoy that video. It's been a long fucking time coming. I've been meaning to do this one for a long time, but I've kept putting it off. And yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.